Hello, and welcome to the Instant Ink Comic Book Podcast. This is the podcast where each time we get together, we get a new writer, a new artist, a new someone, and we create a one-page comic that didn't exist before we got together. We don't know what we're going to be doing today. We'll bring up some random prompts, we'll figure it out live in front of you, and then by the end of this whole experience, we'll have a page that didn't exist before we started talking. So today, we have another Canadian. It's very rare that we have Canadians on, but I'm very excited to talk to her today. But before we get to her, I'm going to tell you who I am. My name's Adriano. You can find me at pestocomics.com or at pestocomics on most of your socials. That's Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. That's where I'm most active right now, but it's all Pesto Comics or pestocomics.com. That'll get you to me wherever I happen to be. And as always, I'm joined by the artist on the show, Roberto. Roberto, let them know who you are.
Hi, my name is Roberto Viacava, and you can find me at robertoviacavaillustration.com. As you may know, I'm the artist here, so lately I'm not posting much on social media, but you can find me there. You can find my art there too.
Right on. Yeah, it's probably the more sane thing to do to stay away from the socials, but I'm still deep in them. All that said, today we are joined by a Canadian. Finally, the show has a lot of really cool dark fantasy books available out there. So please introduce yourself to the people.
All right. Hi, I'm YR Liu. I write dark fantasy. You can find me and a list of all of my books at yrliu.com. There's also my socials. I do not stay away from social media, but I'm mostly on Blue Sky right now, which is not Twitter. So, um, yeah, they're mostly like most of my books are standalones. So if you don't want to commit to a 10 series fantasy series, there you go.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's definitely daunting when you go in exactly. It's like the 10 book, 100,000 word per book series, and you have to get all the offshoots and all that to really get the whole thing. What is it? I know Brandon Sanderson's not dark fantasy, but it's that kind of like intimidating tome. I like that you're providing an alternative that's like, if you want to dip your toe in,
Yeah.
this is the way to do it. So yeah, and as far as social media goes, I think as a writer we're kind of stuck because the only way anybody's gonna pay us any attention is if we scream it from the rooftops. Where
Yeah.
yeah, Roberto has the advantage of just showing people something and they go ooh ah.
Yeah.
All right. So before we get too deep into the conversation, I'm going to bring up the prompts right away. So don't look at these ones. I'm going to regenerate them because I've been looking at these ones and that's cheating. So I'll read these out. I see. Oh my goodness. I think this might be the first time we have all repeats. I'm going to do this one more time. Okay, cool. Okay, so we have a bunch of new ones. That first one, almost all repeats. All right, so today we have alarm clock. What is the perfect sound to wake up to? True friendship. Describe a situation that exudes true friendship. The voyage, a unique vessel that takes you somewhere you've never been before. The help, write about a person helping others. And the stars, what do you see when you look out into the stars? So, are any of these speaking to you?
I mean, the stars and true friendship.
Yeah, yeah, we can absolutely
Yeah.
combine them. Like if you have something that kind of meshes them together, that totally works. So, um, it's not very dark fantasy of you, but that's cool. I like it.
I mean, it
It's
could be.
it could be. Hey, you're the expert. I will defer to you. But yeah, okay, cool. Let's go with those. So true friendship and the stars. And again, if we do stray from this, I wouldn't be too worried. It's just to get us started. So,
Mhm.
Roberto, when you have an opportunity, please share your screen. Let's start thinking about true friendship and the stars. So, what came to mind when you saw that prompt? Do you have a image?
Um, yeah. So, like the stars historically have always been like very unknowable, unfathomable. Pretty much every single culture has a tradition of waxing poetic about stars. but the only way that we can interact with them is by seeing them. So what if say you're a child, you're blind, you're born blind, you've never seen the stars, you hear people talking about the stars, but you have no way of really grasping that experience for yourself. Like you only know what it's like in terms of what other people tell you, but like if you've never seen something, you don't know what a point of light looks like. You don't know like if people say that like, oh, looking at the stars makes me feel small, or like it's like really deep and profound. You have no idea what any of that translates to an actual experience. Um, at the same time, if you're like a blind child, you also are limited in a lot of other ways in terms of like having to trust other people
Mhm.
and what they tell you. So now I'm thinking, what if like this child goes out and like meets some, let's say, and that someone turns out to be like an eldritch entity, and they would not know that this person wasn't a regular human, and maybe this eldritch entity is really happy to have a friend for the first time that doesn't immediately judge them based on appearances.
Okay.
Um,
I think we're onto
yeah,
something. Yeah.
yeah. So like I'm thinking like maybe like somehow this like entity has the ability to show this child the stars and what it's like to see the stars, like the experience of it instead of just describing it somehow.
Mm-hmm. I like how you got it to the fantasy right away. I like it. Yeah, okay. I think that works. So in terms of a comic page, so we do have some limitations space wise, right?
Mhm.
So usually like you can go right up to 9 panels, but usually 9 panels is more of like if you're having like a conversation. I would say like 5 or so is probably like is the sweet spot. You can always add more or less.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking of that, like I picture like so what Roberto's got going now, right? With this, that's like them imagining the stars. Although what you did with the eyes there, I feel like is the
Yeah, I
perfect
love the
ending
eyes.
to that. Yeah,
The eyes look great. Yeah.
right. I feel like that's how
Yeah.
you end this one.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the last panel. Um, you you could also start with kind of like an establishing shot of um I don't even know, like where would this kid be that they would be lamenting that they're not seeing what everyone is talking about, right? um are they, oh, man, I'm trying to think, like, are they on a boat somewhere? Like, where is somewhere that people would be just stargazing and not going about regular type things? Are they out on a hill
Um,
somewhere? Are they on
yeah,
a
like
boat?
on like in a plane or like a meadow, like playing as in
Mm-hmm.
like grassy plane, not airplane.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Like on a plane or like a meadow somewhere. Like, it has to be an area without a lot of trees.
Hmm.
And it's like, like at night in the evening, usually there's not a lot else going on anyway. Like if we're thinking like a historical, like pre-industrial sort of setting.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I like that. And then they're like, yeah, there's a bunch of people, and they're all kind of like looking up and oohing and eyeing as this kid's
yeah.
walking by, like not knowing, right?
Yeah.
Not knowing what they're oohing and eyeing about. And then so that's like your first panel is just a bunch of people looking up at the stars, and then their oohs and ahs as this kid looks sullenly walks by, right?
Yeah.
Not involved in all the fun to be had. And then you can have your meeting right away in that second panel with the, what did you call them? I'm gonna say it wrong.
Uh, an eldritch entity.
Eldrick. I was gonna
I
say
don't really have,
Elvin.
yeah,
Eldrick.
no,
Eldrick.
eldritch entity. Yeah, I don't really have like anything in mind for like design wise for what sort of creature they would be. So
Fair enough. Fair enough.
just something inhuman.
That's fair. Roberto's pretty good at that. I'm sure he has something in his pocket.
Excellent.
Pressure's on now. We're giving you something big to play with. Um, yeah, exactly. Something like that. And like everybody's like loving life and he's just totally not involved,
Mhm.
right? And then that's when he meets this Eldritch being
Yeah.
that everyone like where would he meet them in this case that the other people wouldn't have come across him, or is it something that they're also alone elsewhere, right?
I think
Because
they would be
everybody's cast
alone
them out.
elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it could even be um, like maybe because everyone is busy looking at the stars and then he kind of just like wanders off.
Hmm.
Um,
Does he full out run into this like
Oh,
physically run into this
sorry,
person?
maybe the service dog helps him find this entity.
oh yeah, I like that. That's really cute.
Nice.
Yeah. Like dogs are really good at like, like vibe checking people, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. Yeah. Yeah, because right, like they're not gonna judge based on your looks necessarily,
Yeah.
right? Unless you're actually threatening. But yeah, like in a case where it's like this guy smells like a good person,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So okay, cool. I like that. But yeah, so maybe it's the dog runs off. Is that what we do in the next panel? And then goes to this Eldritch person, and then
Or
Eldritch
like the
being.
dog goes forward and like kind of pulls them along, like the service dog harness that they have.
Yeah, yeah, and, like drags him a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like the dog as like a visual shorthand for the fact that he's blind also.
Yes, yes. That's
Yeah.
where the artist comes in. He's like, how do you say it without saying it?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, so okay, so the dog pulls our character over, and then so that's two panels. They meet, and they have, I guess, so this one sounds like one that we're gonna need some dialogue, which is fine.
Yeah.
That's totally cool. It's not, we don't try to avoid it at all. It's just sometimes people are like, the idea is a little more abstract, let's say. So it's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, we got the point, right? But in this case, I feel like it would add, like you could probably get the picture without, but it definitely would add some color to explain what's going on. Um, Even a little bit. So yeah, so the dog pulls him over. They meet. They have their conversation if there's a conversation to be had, and then he gives them this gift of allowing them
Yeah.
to see what everybody's seeing. So I think that's around five, but it doesn't. Again, doesn't. We're not restricted to five. I just find it's a nice sweet spot to aim for, and
Yeah.
if you go over or under, Bob's your uncle. Um, you put what you need, but yeah, it's always good to have a target.
Yeah.
All right. Um, I think I think that's good. Okay, so we'll let Roberto let us know if you need more guidance. We'll let you do a little more layout before we bug you again.
Okay. No problem.
But I mean, always chime in. It's always fun when you chime in. But I know it's hard to
Yeah, I think I'm gonna crop the head and the spine so we have more room.
more room to play. Yeah,
Yes.
I like the visual that you have. Like it's kind of like a anchor in the middle. But yeah, I get
Yeah.
what you're saying. It's also made things a bit tight. But yeah, as far as like the layout of a page, it's a cool visual. The one thing with the one page that I always warn against, I think it's fine here because you do need the context to understand why that last panel is important. Um, but like sometimes people want to end with like a joke or something,
Mhm.
and it's fine to do, but you always the second you look at a page, your eye is drawn to everything, right? Like
Yeah.
it's hard to have a surprise on the same page. Usually you reserve it for a page turn. We don't have a page turn. So
Yeah.
so I think in this case though, like we're doing it the right way in the sense that like you need the context to understand why that last page panel is important, right? So I think it's a good it's a good one pager. Is that a tail that you're drawing, Roberto? I'm very interested to see how this all plays without influencing it. I'm not giving you anything for this one. All right. So while he does that, so dark fantasy. So I'm gonna admit I haven't read any of your books. A dark fantasy is not my forte, but I can be sold on it. So what draws you to that genre? What's the how do you keep yourself going in such a it's not almost specific. I feel like you can do almost anything in it, but it's still
Mhm.
kind of like you've really laid out what your like niche is, and I find that very interesting. So
So there's a couple of things. First of all, I'm a big crier. I cry at every little thing. I cry at like those Thai life insurance commercials that went viral a couple of years ago.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but I also find it like really cathartic um, to like when you go through a piece of media and then like it's sad and then you have big feelings about it and then you close it and you put it down and then you go on with your actual life.
Hmm.
So I find it's nice like that. Um, it's almost like it's like detoxing for like your emotions. Just to like feel them in like it's I guess it would be like the same way that like people like roller coasters because it simulates falling to your death, right?
Yeah.
Like you get that feeling, you get like the adrenaline and then it's over. It's like a safe contained way of experiencing that feeling. So like for me, like sad or scary books are like that. um it's a contained way. It's fiction. It's not going to affect anything in reality. You
Hmm.
get those feelings, you get to experience those feelings, you get the catharsis of those feelings, you have your big cry, and then it's over. And then you go out and you do whatever with your life. So for me, I've always liked tragedies and just like books that have like darkness in them.
Hmm.
um and like fantasy is also like a really good genre to do that in, right? Like with like uh sad or scary books that like take place in like a contemporary modern setting, for example, it it can be like a bit too close to home,
Hmm.
right? Whereas like in fantasy, it's just kind of like, oh, they need to like fight this like war against orcs or the world's going to end or whatever. Is there's parallels to real life, but it's far enough away that you're not immediately thinking about all of the terrible things that are going on in real life, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I love that. That's an excellent pitch.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's why I always shy away from like true crime and things like that, right? Like it's way too close to home. And it's like
yeah,
I like, I don't there's enough depressing stuff out there. I don't need to add my free time. Like add more
yeah. I
misery to
mean,
my free time. So I think what you're saying is like, yeah, having
I,
it arm's length is
yeah, I do actually consume some true crime, but
sure.
like it's different, you know? Like the true crime is like, I think like most, femme or assigned female at birth people who enjoy true crime, it's more an element of like, how do I not get murdered? How do I learn from this and have it not happen?
Sure, sure. It's
So,
educational more than it's
yeah,
entertainment. That's
yeah,
that's sad in a different way, but yeah, I don't begrudge anybody enjoying it. I just find it's like, yeah, it's for me it's like it's too close to home, and then I start like I don't know. I start thinking about it like, oh my God, like life's
yeah,
so short. Oh my, right? So it
yeah,
weighs on you, but the fantasy element of it, where it's like, yeah, like this is a different this is fiction. It's okay,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah, like reading about serial killers, you know, like first, like it depends on like I guess your like constitution. Like some people, like then they can't stop thinking about it, and they go out and
Hmm.
they're like, all of these people could be serial killers, right?
Yeah,
Whereas like you read about like vampires or werewolves, it's like, okay, none of these people are actually vampires or werewolves because vampires and werewolves aren't real. So it's like you have that built-in separation.
yes, 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 exactly, right? Like it's even if it's kind of based in the real world, once it kind of crosses that threshold, it's like, okay, I feel safe
Yeah,
now, right?
yeah.
I just watched that what is it? The one on Netflix, K-pop Demon Hunters. I watched it yesterday, and it's I don't know if you watched it. I won't spoil
I
anything.
haven't yet. It's on my list though. I
Definitely
just don't
watch
have a
it.
lot of free time.
That's fair. That's fair. I like squeezed it in. It's not. Good thing is it's like 90 minutes, so it's not
Okay.
like a huge commitment. Excellent though. I loved it, but it was that. It was like it was very very based in like the real world. Um,
Hmm.
like they get the fandom and everything like just like pitch perfect. Like they know exactly what they're doing. And then it just kind of crosses into this realm of like fantasy, and then like the demon hunter aspect of of the
Right.
story. So it's like
Yeah.
it really hits home and then does its own thing. So you get
Yeah.
kind of both, right? So even though like the world is in peril and it's a world that you can kind of recognize, it's still like, yeah, but it's not, right? It's kind of
Yeah.
more like it's fantasy based, but it's like it's kind of like sci-fi in the sense of like it's today's world if, but the if is
It's
like demons.
contemporary. It's contemporary fantasy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, right? So I really enjoyed it. I just have it on my mind because I was watching it yesterday, and yeah, your point about like keeping things at arm's length, right? It's
Yeah.
like yes, that's exactly the vibe I got. Even though it was like the world it started in was like, yeah, it's like almost exact. Like I've heard those people say, like the fans, the fandom of it, right? And the way they're so obsessed. It's like, anyways, I've been to like BTS concerts. I'm going to like Blackpink tomorrow, so I, yeah, I know those fans, and they got it exactly right. But then they're like fighting demons and stuff, and yeah, it was. Anyways, it's cool. I don't have a great point to that, other than yeah, it kind of reminded me of what you were saying. Yeah, that it's like it's escapism while still giving you something to hold on to, right?
Yeah. Like, and like you can have these like really big, larger than life problems. Like I said, like in a safe way that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't feel oppressive. Like the same stakes or similar stakes in fantasy compared to like something in a more realistic setting just feels different,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like if you have like some like world-ending threat in a fantasy world, it doesn't feel the same as having a story that's apocalyptic proportions, but for modern current day
Sure. Yeah.
world. So you get to do these like really exaggerated things. And you also get to like pull in like a lot of like mythology and like things about like things from folklore and stuff like that that are like really fun to play with. Um and the reason like historically like cultures have had these myths and like these the sorts of folklore and stuff like that is sort of like they it almost distills the essence of people and like how people behave by separating it from reality, right? So you don't have all of these um extra things that can color how the reader or the listener, in case of oral traditions, perceive the story. It's just all of this, everything else is fake. We're just drilling it, distilling it down to like, we're saying something about the nature of love. We're saying something about the nature of family. We're saying something about friendship. We're saying something about revenge and rivalry or like darker concepts as well, right? But it's like the core, I guess, humanity of it stays intact and you almost see it better because we've changed all of the set dressing.
Yeah, the allegory allows you some freedom to be a little more direct about the point you're trying to make, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're trying to base it in reality, there's so many other factors that people will nitpick, and like it'll take them like even unintentionally, like subconsciously,
Yeah.
they'll just be like that doesn't feel right. That's not how that went. Or I think Roberto, you mentioned about every time like Argentina shows up in film and it's very clearly Chicago or wherever, right? and,
Yeah.
and it just pulls you out. But if it's a fantasy world or something like that, like you don't have like none of us know what this is supposed to look like, so everything is fair game. So you can move on to like the point you're trying to make, right?
Yeah.
Where yeah, something based in our world, it's if anything is even a little bit off, you're at risk of throwing everything
Y-
off, right?
Yeah. Especially like touchy subjects, right? Like if you get into like you're trying to make a point about like, for example, um, religion, politics, um, any kind of like blank phobia type
Yeah.
things. Um, if you try to like do that with like, and obviously there's like great writers who do that, but like if you try to do that with like the actual real world thing that you're trying to talk about, you know, you're going to get a bunch of knee-jerk reactions and like people who aren't reading your text in good faith, or like people who are bringing their own biases and prejudices, because everyone has their own biases and like pre-existing baggage. And so they're bringing that into the text. Whereas if you just strip all of that away and you do a good enough job that's not obvious what you're trying to allude to, um, people are more likely to actually see the point that you're trying to make.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, like there's still an art to it. Like it's not so much a shortcut that like, oh, I'm writing fantasy so none of this matters. It's like
Yeah.
no, like you still have to you have to one, you have to obscure things in a way that's done artfully enough that the point still gets through without being so direct, but also you have to anchor it to something. So it's a very delicate balance, and not a lot of folks get it. But yeah, when it's done well, there's nothing like it, right? Because you can
Yeah.
really dig into topics without, worrying about all the things that can possibly steer you from the point you're trying to make.
Yeah, exactly. Like Lord of the Rings, which is, you know, like the granddaddy of modern fantasy, was based on Tolkien's experiences in the trenches of World War One. So, um, at that time, obviously, like there was a lot of feeling about World War One. There was, you know, like it was wrapped up in a lot of like sentiment about, um, you know, uh, nationalism, but also like patriotism and like that sort of thing, and like us versus them, and like protecting our homeland or whatever. And obviously he didn't like I don't know if you know this, but like he didn't explicitly like write it for an audience and be like, I want to send this message. He wrote it basically as therapy for himself, right? Because um, modern talk therapy hadn't been invented yet, and he needed to deal with it in some way. So, but you can kind of still see it, like where he's
Mhm.
coming from with like things are bad and how to make it not be bad, I guess. Um, so I forgot the point I was trying to make.
I think I think what you're trying to say is like, um, yeah, it always comes from a real place. Like even though
Yeah,
it's not set in a real place or based on a
yeah,
real place, like it always comes from something real, and then kind of
yeah. And it's not always trying to be like Aesop's fables or like, here's the lesson or anything like that. Like sometimes it's just like one person working through their own past experiences, or it could just be like, I'm exploring this topic. I don't actually have like a point to it. I'm just wanting to explore it or something like that. So it doesn't like when I say that it always relates to something in the real world, I don't mean like the person sat down and was like, how to make an allegory for war, you know? It's just whatever is on like their mind on a conscious or subconscious level. And because they exist in the real world, then whatever's on their mind is also pulls from the real world.
yeah, absolutely. Like you can't. I mean, you can force it, but usually that ends up being not your best work, right? It's
Yeah.
sometimes it's just a lot of times I find when I'm writing things like the comics are a little more rigid in the sense of uh like the point you're trying to make, like they're a lot more plot driven, so I find it happens a little less with the comics. But when I'm writing my like prose stuff, there I find there's a lot more, like even if I'm a very heavy like outliner, I like to outline, but I still find there's a lot of discovery, and you start seeing like, as you're doing your drafts, and you're like, oh, I see who this person is, right?
Yeah.
Or I see where this person came from. I see why they're doing this. And it's subconscious. It's like people you've met in your life, or it's usually amalgamations of people you met in your life too, right? It's not
Yeah.
like that's Bob. It's like, oh, that's like a little bit of my mother and a little bit of my brother, and mixed
Yeah.
together,
Yeah.
right?
Sometimes a little bit of yourself, and then you get called out in a way that you weren't intending, and then you get offended by your own characters.
Yes, yes. Especially when your other characters are like, why are you like this? And it's like, why am I like this?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot more room for that I find in the prose stuff, just based on the format, right?
Yeah, it's a looser format. You can get away with more fluidity,
Mhm.
right? Like if you add or take away a little bit of dialogue, you don't have to like restructure the whole rest of the scene around it or anything.
Yeah.
So that's helpful. Um, you don't have to like, oh, this actually has to be like a set number of pages. You can't just leave it on half a page, right? Or like for like time-based media, like maybe your slot is only half an hour and it has to be exactly half an hour. Um, so that's like that's one of what I like about writing prose. And then the other thing is just kind of like the language itself is really like melodious, and you can tell a lot about a person by the word, like their word choice and how they speak and stuff like that. And so that's not just in dialogue, that's also in narration, which you don't get in other mediums unless you do a voiceover, which can work, but you have to be really careful not to make it clunky.
Mhm.
Whereas in with prose, it's just like it's all narration. Like you open the book and then you're just like, all right, whose perspective are we following? Congratulations, the narration's their voice, right? Like especially in like modern books, fiction, voicey third is very popular along with first person. In older books, you tend to have more like detached third person, and it doesn't say as much about the character that you're following. But
Mhm.
like nowadays, a lot of books like they do use voicey third, and so like you follow the narration, and then you get a lot about this person's personality and their mental state and what they're thinking about, what they're paying attention to, right? Like if a character is paying attention to a lot of little details, that'll show up in the narration. Whereas if they're a character that doesn't pay attention to details, you won't see that in the narration, that sort of thing. So you get like a much fuller picture of this person's internal life that you don't really have the ability to showcase in mediums where it's more you're seeing what's happening on the outside.
Yeah, I think, and Roberto, I know you want to confirm the layout, but before you do, just this one quick point.
I don't want
So,
to inter.
yeah, no worries. So the one thing I'd say about that, yeah, is the difference between the two. And it's not just comics. It's like you said, like any time-based or like limited type of media, that there's like a true limitation to how much you can get out in your time period. Where if you're talking about novels and that, like you can have these side things that happen, these side quests, these other plots, these scenes that have nothing to do with anything, but they do, because everything is with the intent of revealing character, right? It's you getting into their heads, and yes, it didn't move the plot forward at all, but you got a better sense of who this character is because of this random act that happened somewhere else, right? If it's
Yeah.
done well, it's not entirely random, but at the time it could feel like it. Where in a comic, if you had a page that takes place elsewhere with a different person that doesn't like come up in some way
Yeah.
immediately, it feels like wasted time, right? Or even in a film, right? Like if they're a little more lingery, and they have scenes where it's just like somebody talking to a random person and you never see that person again, like it's never enough to really reveal character, and then it just feels like, why would, like, you just extended the screen time for no reason, right? Where in a
Yeah,
novel it's
which is
appreciated.
yeah. Which well, like so like in a novel, like they don't have to talk out loud, right? Like they can just like have like in the narration or like in like some sort of like internal um anything. Like depends on like whether this particular writing style you've decided to do a lot of like internal monologues like with italics and stuff. Um but either way, like it feels natural to have this look into the character's like thoughts and feelings and stuff like that. Whereas like if you're doing a film or something like that, now you have to find someone for them to talk to about this. And that's how you get things like, as you know, blah, 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 things that everyone in the universe should know, um, which is like clunky and not great. Um, Whereas like in with prose, you can just literally just have that in the narration and you're done.
Yeah, right. And again, always an art to it, but yeah, you can certainly make it part of the journey, and it doesn't feel like, yeah, like that character just exists to tell me why the world is the way it is,
Yes, exactly.
right? Like that's their only purpose, and then they leave. Like those are
Yeah.
yeah. It's very transparent what you're doing in those
Mhm.
scenarios. Okay, so before we move on, Roberto, you want to confirm that the layout is good? I think it's good, but uh, I'm not gonna be the final judge of that. YR, what do you think?
I think it looks great. I like it.
I didn't know what to do with the character, and so I went kind of alien.
Yeah, I like it. I like the like kind of like tentacle hand that's going on in the like third to last panel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's neat. Yeah. It's not what I would have expected, but it turned out pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I keep going then.
Right on. But yeah, so story wise, I think we're good. Like I think we got everything in there. Dog drags him, brings him to this being. The being offers something, and then we get that final panel, which is really cool. Which
Yeah.
is like the showpiece of the whole page. Okay, cool,
Yeah.
cool. So if we're good, we'll let Roberto refine that while we chat.
Yeah, I think
Um,
we're good.
Cool, cool. With the whole like book talk and all this stuff, I feel like there's been a real push for like I don't know, it's the type of books that are getting like pushed don't seem to have the same like I don't know. It's almost like they're appearing and disappearing so quickly nowadays,
They
right?
are. They're very so the kind of books that Book Talk likes to push, like obviously romantasy is having a big moment right now. They're very escapist,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like the point of those, I don't want to say the point, like, but the purpose of those books essentially is, to deliver so for example, deliver a story of like you too could be romanced by a sexy 1,000-year-old vampire who isn't going to try to drink your blood for X, Y, Z reason. Right. And again, like there's nothing wrong with that. Like it's a safe way of exploring that. Like, what if you got into a romantic relationship with someone who is actively dangerous and bad for your health? Don't do that in real life. Do that by reading a book, you know? Um, so like they're like obviously like they're very popular, and there is a audience for them, and which is great. Um, but it's not the sort of books that you like linger on.
Mm-hmm.
Really, it's like it's taking you on a journey. You're enjoying it while you're on the journey, and then you put it down. And there's, I wouldn't say always, but there's not usually something there that invites you to think on it or linger on it afterwards very much. Aside from maybe, oh, I'd love the male protagonist and I'd love to read more books with similar archetypes, you know what I mean? But like there's nothing like in the book itself that's like makes you like linger on it and think about it in the way that for example, something's polar opposite, right? Like Mouse,
Mm-hmm.
which is well, you would know, but like
Yeah.
um but like you finish that book and then you think on it and it like lives in your head. And then it's like you finish the book and then like days, hours, weeks later, you're like in the shower or whatever, and you're still thinking about it. You're still thinking about what it says about humans and like humans put in extreme conditions. And like, what does that mean about like the nature of morality or whatever? Right. And so the kind of books on that are popular right now with like Book Talk and Instagram also, like social media in general, right? Like it's really easy to push the books that are like simpler, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not simpler as in a bad thing, but it's just simpler as in like its goal is to deliver a simpler experience. Um, so like with like the kinds of books that are popular right now, and part of the reason it's popular is because it's easy to go through them and then you move on to the next one and then you move on to the next one, you move on to the next one, right? Um, but it's also easy to push them because you could just be like, this book has a romantic lead who is a werewolf, and the female protagonist has XYZ traits, and they hate each other at first, but then they fall in love. And if you're someone who's like, I love that type of story, you're gonna pick that book up, right? Whereas the more complex, the more not just narratively, but thematically complex a book is, it's much harder to sell it, right?
Yeah.
In the end, that's what it's about, right? It's about marketing. So it's like much harder to sell it when it's more complex because you can't distill it down to a bullet point list of it hits these tropes and has these characteristics and is this genre, right? So experimental things, mixed genre things, do suffer a lot, I think, with the way book selling works right now.
Yeah, like it's you said it so much more eloquently than I stumbled through that, but thank you for that. But yeah, like it's partly the churn that I find is in like the bit almost like never before, which is kind of untrue because like we've always had like pulp writing, which
Yeah,
like I'm a big fan of. I love my but I'm more like sci-fi thriller, that kind of pulp, but nonetheless like romance, all that stuff fits in the pulp genre.
yeah,
Um, so we've always had it. So to say that like that this is a new trend is not entirely forthright, but it's one, the velocity I feel like is more than ever just because everybody needs content. So they got to talk about a new book every week, right? So
yeah,
nothing has like staying power like it did
yeah,
before, right? But also there's like a trend jumping thing, right? Where, yeah, like romantasy right now is everywhere, right? Like you go to uh what would it be in the States? It's Indigo or Chapters here in Canada. We're all Canadians here. We know what that is. Barnes and Noble, I guess, is what's still there.
yeah,
Yeah. So you go in there and like the tables are all romantasy and it's like it's almost like it's weird because we live in a world that's so everybody can find their niche and find what they want if they look for it. But in books, I feel like it's become such a like monoculture because of like book talk and things like that. Like everybody's trying to
yeah,
hop on to one trend and like this
yeah,
is the only kind of book you can read. Um, of course, there's hundreds, millions of books being published every day, but when when you look into like what people are reading and what's popular, it's always this one type of book, right?
yeah.
And right now it's romantasy. I think there's a push now for what they were calling it sci-mantasy, which is like science fiction.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't think they found a good
that's an awful name.
mashup word yet. Yeah. But yeah, so there's a lot more like science fiction. Yeah, like science fiction and romance mashed together.
Yeah,
Which makes sense. Um, I
yeah,
don't
it's
know if
like
you can
one
swear. I
removed,
don't
right?
know. Yeah,
Please
I
go
don't know
ahead.
if you can swear. But it follows the monster fucking trend.
Yeah, yeah. There isn't a better way to say it, so absolutely.
Uh, we just went from vampires to werewolves to like weird goblins, and now we're like onto like aliens and science experiments.
Yeah,
The Shape of Water, whatever The Shape of Water was supposed to be. Uh,
it looks like our our character here a little bit, but uh,
See,
Guillermo del Toro, come on, he's
I'm not plagiarizing. That's what I meant. I
oh
haven't
yeah,
seen
yeah,
it.
okay, that's
yeah,
fair, that's fair, yes. Um, but yeah, I guess that's the point, right? Like they've kind of spent everything they could in that genre, so they're jumping to the next closest one, which I guess makes sense. But yeah, it's just there seems to be just like I like it makes sense. Everybody's kind of jumping onto a trend, but it's just strange how you can have so many books churning while also feeling like you're not moving at all, right? Like every week there's oh this is the hot new book. Again, I think
yeah,
it's just because of the nature of social media. Everybody needs to be the one to discover something. But then we're
yeah,
also stuck in this like this is the genre we're all talking about for the next
yeah.
2.5 years.
It's social media, but it's also just like like global media, like globalization.
Hmm.
Also, because it's like think about it, like historically, there has never been a time where it's like everyone on the planet is reading the same group of books. Like everyone on the planet is getting marketed the same group of books.
Hmm.
Um, like historically, like in the early days of the printing press, for example, um, the your reach was limited, but that means also like different towns, different villages, different countries would have different trends going on, and then merchants or like other people who are like traveling back and forth could bring those trends to other places and have that cross-pollination where you're still getting input from these other cultures and like what their trends are and what's going on over there and stuff like that. Whereas now, because of the internet, like globalizing our culture essentially, right? Pretty much like anywhere you go on the planet, if it's a developed city or not even city, developed like region, with access to the internet, with access to Hollywood movies, to the latest AAA games, to whatever, everyone's enjoying the same media globally. So you don't have that cross-pollination of like, oh, like John the traveling merchant went to like 3 towns over, and over there they're reading this book that's completely different. You don't have that anymore. So while there's more ability for people in niche genres or niche interests to find each other, you do have to look, right? The mainstream is not going to push the niche narratives. They're going to push what makes them money, their businesses at the end of the day, right? Whether we're talking about Hollywood filmmakers, whether we're talking about AAA game studios, whether we're talking about the big 5 publishing houses, they're going to sell what sells, and that the more people that they're selling to, which at this point is the whole planet, the more common denominator it's going to be, right? The thing that sells. So, like there's good and bad to the fact that everyone shares a culture now, a pop culture.
Yeah, I think you've nailed it. It's almost like you have to flatten it because it has to be relatable to everyone
Yeah.
all over the world. Which how can it possibly be? I mean, also to your point, you can go to any big city and feel kind of at home.
Yeah.
Everywhere feels the same somehow. Uh, which is
You can always find a Starbucks.
yeah, exactly. You can find, I think Italy was like the last holdout because they're like, we have espresso, we don't need it, and
Yeah.
and now they have espresso on every, sorry, espresso. They have a Starbucks on every corner, which is insane because like they
Yeah.
were the last ones. They're like, we invented this. We don't need your fancy coffees. Like we know how to make an espresso, and now they have Starbucks too. So you can go literally anywhere.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're not that far from home. So there's kind of like a ubiquity in experience in that sense. But yes, but people still are living different lives depending on where you are. And if you're trying to tell a story that you want to sell from sea to sea, it's a little, yeah, you're gonna have to flatten it, and then it becomes the same story where it's like we're all gonna
Yeah.
hit the same points so that you feel comfortable. And
Yeah.
then yeah, to your point, like then it's you have to, the only way you're really going to find it is by not getting the mainstream books, but then you're out of the conversation. So it's like
Yeah.
right? That's half of the fun. It's being like, did you read that? I didn't like it either. Or, sure. Hey. But like, at least you're in the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. But the one thing that we do have now that we didn't have, now it's been like 20 years, but like a while ago, was the indie market, like obviously exploded, right? Like we're all here thanks to that. But it's there's no excuse of saying like like I don't like to read because I don't like the books that are out there. You just
Yeah.
haven't looked, right? Like
Yeah.
they're 100% out there for you. You just have to make a little bit of an effort. You will find something that is right up your alley because someone has written it somewhere because there's thousands of books being published every day, right? So it's yeah, it's just a matter of looking, but they certainly don't make it easy because yeah, it's all right now. It's like if you just go to your bookstore and ask them what's popular, you're getting a romantasy book in your hands,
Yeah. Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
But I mean, again, I don't begrudge anybody enjoying it. I don't think it's necessarily even a bad thing. Like it's a fun genre. I just think, yeah, like it's like there just doesn't feel like there's as much variety in what's available. But I think it's that there's a bit of trend hopping. Everybody's what's hot today. Let's go
Yeah.
all in on that rather than saying, do you like this type of genre? Okay, these are what's available here, and having that, even in the theaters, like if we're talking movies, like, when's the last time you saw like a romantic comedy in the theater, right? I can't
Yeah.
even think of it. It's been so long. So unless, and I'm one to talk, But all you can find in the theater is like right now it's like superhero stuff, which
Yeah.
I'm all for it, but I understand why that could be frustrating to some. Right? But it's like that's all you're finding. If you want any romance, if you want even rom-coms or comedies, um, they just don't exist, right? Like it's animation for like the four wall animation they call it, where it's like
Mm.
you get the parents and all four quadrants, um, or superhero stuff, and that's it.
Yeah.
And everything else has to find a new home. It's usually on streaming, but even then, it's like it's few and far between. We're not getting the experimentation and the trying of all these different genres
Yeah.
that we would normally. Um, and for film, it's a little different, just because you can write a book on your own. You should get an editor, but arguably you could do it completely on your own
Yeah.
and
It's
publish it.
fewer
It's done.
people involved. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like you can do it with arguably you could do it with two people if you have a really good editor who can do all of the editing. Um, but yeah, where a film it's like hundreds of people for millions of dollars is the entry fee, right?
Yeah.
They say you
Yeah.
can make it
And
with your
like,
iPhone, but that's exaggerating.
yeah. And like, like small filmmakers do exist, but like, again, you don't hear about them because they don't have the like multi-million-dollar marketing budget. So you really have to look. You have to actually be like, I want to see more independent films made by smaller filmmakers. And then you have to know where to look, which most people don't. And then you have to, you know, the flip side of that is like the lower the barrier to entry, the more junk you get.
Yes.
So, like if you're a smaller filmmaker, for example, on a shoestring budget, there's a lot of other people on a shoestring budget. And frankly, not all of them are going to be good. That's just the nature of people. Not everyone is good at everything. So it's harder for you to like stand out from the crowd and like get to the people who you feel like would enjoy your film.
Yeah, exactly. And um there's always like tastemakers in that you have to like they're always going to be a barrier to get by. If you have smaller films, like you can get into a film festival, but what do you have to do to get into a film festival? You have to convince the curator that your film is worthy of being at said film festival,
Yeah.
right? Like I go to TIFF every year. It's a great time, but yeah, I'm getting the tastes of whoever the programmer was for that program. They have like 5, 7 or 8 programs, I think. And you could tell like this person likes this kind of movie, right? And so if you don't fall in one of the 7 or 8 tastes of these people, like very specific, there's like 8 people in charge, like you're not getting seen, right? So it's a very different world in that sense where I think to your point about there being too much of everything in the sense of like it's harder to cut through when the barrier's so low. That's like Amazon with books, right?
Yeah.
That anyone like if you want to write a short story while we're talking now and have it done by the time we're done and it's 4 pages and it's not edited, you can still post it on Amazon and it's going to be
Yeah.
there next to our books,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
And now with bane of my existence, ChatGPT and similar large
Oh,
language models,
yes.
yeah, you can like with like a little bit of automation, you can like have something that's like pumping out books like on the hour,
Yeah.
which is first of all a ridiculous output. But also you're just like literally flooding the market with a bunch of junk.
Yeah.
And burying everything else. So
Yeah, that's the upsetting part of it, right? Like I understand like it's so with AI everybody's like, well, who cares? Like people are going to use it, they're going to make their garbage and nobody's going to read it. And yeah, sure. Like that's not an invalid point. Like nobody wants to read something with like no heart in it, right? Or something
Mhm.
that is very clearly like, although AI is getting better every day, but right now you can almost tell when it's written by AI. Some people have been able to fool, but for the most part, they're all telling almost the same version of the same story every time.
Yeah.
So it's like, who needs that? Like I can generate that myself and not give you any money for doing so. But so that's not the argument that I'm worried about. It's the fact that now, like you said, that book is competing for time and attention with ours that we've put time and effort into,
Yeah.
right? And now it's like I already needed the megaphone to cut through the noise, and
Yeah,
now there's so much more noise, right?
exactly,
A- a-
exactly. It's
So,
also it also like, and on the flip side, this also like causes some people to have like a knee-jerk reaction.
mhm.
So I have a friend of mine who's also an author had someone accuse their book of using AI generated image for the cover image.
Mm.
This cover was made in like 2017 or something like that.
Oh
So
yeah.
definitely not AI generated, but it turned into like this whole thing. And it's just kind of like people are almost like too touchy about it. And as the AI gets better and it becomes more difficult to distinguish whether something is AI generated, that's just going to become a bigger problem.
Yeah.
And there's also the environmental impact also is pretty terrible.
To
We should,
document, sorry, you have to document the creation of everything. Like we,
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and it's a lot of extra overhead essentially in terms of like the mental effort of doing anything. Um, yeah, and the environmental impact is just like we have enough climate problems. Actually, we don't need to be burning down more rainforests. Um, so it's the way I feel about it is basically like sort of like the invention of gunpowder or TNT. Like there are useful applications for this, but there's also a lot of really bad applications, and there should probably be some sort of guardrails on how you can use this.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I mean, yeah, we don't need to like burn down a rainforest to write an email.
Yeah.
It's kind of upsetting in that way.